You have a Mac, so you're safe from all of the exploits and viruses that plague Windows devices, right? Well, think again. A new macOS code signing bug may expose your system to all kinds of bad things. For TechRepublic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with Brandon Vigliarolo. Brandon, what's going on with this new macOS code signing bug?
Yeah, so here's the issue. Essentially, Apple puts out a bunch of information on how they want third-party developers to handle code signing. But it looks like a lot of them are skipping a few steps just to kind of expedite the process. So third-party software, and the list released by, there was a developer from Okta who found this particular flaw. He released a list of affected software, and it includes things like VirusTotal, Google's Santa and Malco Design Checker, Facebook's OS Query, F-Secure, Carbon Black, and more. And all of these security platforms, when they are scanning a file, they're checking part of it to be sure that it's properly signed by Apple. And then they're assuming the rest is good and passing it through. If you can specially craft a file, specifically a FAT file, the first mock object of which is signed by Apple legitimately, you can throw in other binaries into that FAT file that are ad hoc signed. And as long as they're compiled for i386 or x86 64-bit target Mac OS systems, Apple will just, these third-party systems will read them through, pass them through, and assume they're legitimate, even though they can contain pretty much any malware you wanted to include.
So Apple actually responded and said that the problem is with developers and isn't a security issue. Can you help us understand that?
Well, no, it makes sense in a way. Apple has, so I can't really disagree with Apple in this statement. At the same time, I don't think it's necessarily the most responsible way for them to respond. When they contacted the developer from Okta, who found it, they said, "Hey, this isn't an issue on our end. We've provided documentation on how to do this. We're not responsible for third-party software that doesn't do it properly." And apparently, they told this guy that they were going to update their documentation to reflect good, best practice in terms of doing this, but they're not going to take any direct action. The developer from Okta who found the bug did say that there's 3 flags in particular that they were pretty long and complicated names. I can't recall them, but the flags had to be in place for this signing check to happen correctly. And if they're not, then it can be completely bypassed. And he said the flags can be bypassed regardless anyhow. So, whether or not Apple has complete control over this is kind of disputed between the developer and Apple.
What was some of the affected software?
Right, like I mentioned, VirusTotal, Google's Santa and Malco Design Checker, Facebook OS Query, F-Secure, Carbon Black, and there were a few others as well so these are pretty high-profile pieces of software.
So, Brandon, you have a full story about this out on TechRepublic. Where can we go to learn more about not just this Mac OS bug or loophole, but other security loopholes that may affect iOS and Mac OS users?
Yeah, you can check out other stuff that I've written on TechRepublic.com for lots of security stories about Apple.